it's important to feel a deep, deep peace. And I felt that deep peace on my living, and I knew it was right. And no one was able to tell me it wasn't right, because God told me it was right. And it's important to that everything falls in place easily. Like I didn't have to do anything really to make it happen. It just happened. And to me, that's a sign that it's of God and not of me, because God was calling me. And nobody could persuade me from that. So that if a young woman is coming, I would tell her to get on her knees and pray and place herself in God's loving arms. And if God wants her to be here, nothing's going to stop her. And that's what the Holy Father told St. Therese. You know, if it's of God, it will happen.
It was interesting, not interesting, but it was good to note that you trusted God throughout the whole process. You trusted God that He would lead you. You trusted the voice that you were hearing within your heart. And I think that is a value that is so necessary within our own being, with our own heart, to hear, to sense God's call for our lives and for the path that He wants us to journey on. And as you said, that peacefulness came and was there because of your following through with what God was asking of you for your life. He knows where He wants you to be. And there's that trust that He will also take care of all those whom you love and whom you've been with. It's something I've also shared many times with different people in my own life. You know, you leave family behind, you leave a community behind, so to speak, but you really don't ever leave them behind. You carry them in your heart, and I truly believe that God carries them in His hands with as much love, if not more, than what you have for them. Right. And when you do recommunicate with them, with your family or your friends, or whatever, you just keep on from where you left off. But you really it never died. You know, it's always there. The love is always there, and God holds that and relishes that sacrifice. And on your part as well as on their part, to let you come forward in God's journey for your life. Right. You know, and that's a lot.
You're so right, Sister Jean. You know that I have grown so much closer to my family and to my friends. And I've made many new friends. Good. And how do you make those new friends in the cloister community? Well, we answer the door. We answer the doorbell.
That's true.
And many times somebody comes to the door and they're crying. They need someone to talk to.
That's true.
And, you know, I embrace them and try to help them. And we become lasting friends.
Well, the advice I would give is to perhaps take a step back and take a break from the dating for a while so that you can focus on your discernment. Because you cannot really give your full attention to God and also be dating someone, even if it is a friendly sort of casual dating. Because your heart is always torn and you feel that you should be pleasing this person, but yet you want to focus on God. And, you know, I know in my own experience, I just sat down with a person that I was seeing and explained what was in my heart, and he was very open. He said, go pursue that, and we'll be friends, and we'll stay in contact. Because if the person really cares about you, they are going to be open for you to do that. And if they don't care about you, you don't belong with them in the first place, or, you know, in the end of it. So that's my advice, is give your full attention to the discernment and give it its full due.
And even when I was, before I had entered and I was in direction, that's just about the advice that the director gave me, to stop the dating at a certain time and see whether I still wanted to pursue the course into religious life. So I'd say that was quite a confirmation.
Yes, yes. And I know in my own case, I'm very glad, because it helps to bring out some feelings that otherwise would have remained hidden, or perhaps I would have been too fearful to confront. And it was much more natural.
Right.
God will never abandon us. Even it says, even if father and mother abandon you, I will not abandon you, for I love you with the deepest love.
God is present in everything, and He knows everything that we go through. In all our trials, in all our struggles, He is always there, and He is faithful, as you said.
And He knows us more than we know ourselves. So, I mean, what will it profit anyone to rely on the world and lose one's soul? But to be with the Lord is enduring happiness.
There's always hope. With God, there's always hope. And they should never lose hope when they think that everything is down or cannot be repaired or whatever. But God is always there to help them. So hope is always there. Hope is eternal.
Yes.
And so with the other virtues, that we just have to remember that God is all-knowing, all-loving, and all-merciful.
In line with that, sister, I do agree that God is a God of the possible. Nothing is impossible with God. All things are possible to him who has faith, hope, and love. And there's a saying that God makes straight, crooked lines. So nothing that we do will ever separate us from his love. Neither hardships, neither tribulations. And he's there in our joy. So I do completely agree and support what you say. In the end, it's his love and our trust in him and his compassionate love will see us through anything.
But we have 2 hours of prayer time, silent prayer time during the day, and in that time the sisters have the opportunity to pray as they see fit. And I don't think in this monastery we'd ever impose a way of praying on the sisters during that time. So some of us read scripture, some will, sit quietly and just pray in their listening. Others will, be reading a spiritual book sometimes. I think it varies, and I think for myself, just in that time, there's different days I feel like doing one thing, another day I feel like something else. And it's all about just relating to God in the most healthy and, I guess, best way for me that day or for them that day. I don't think you can impose a way of praying or a way of spirituality on anyone. I think they gravitate toward it by themselves if they're looking for it, seeking it. I think you have to look at the roots or the source of the traditions to start out with. Our order is 800 years old, so what started at 800 years ago is not always going to work in our society of today. And the modifications that are made, I would have to go back and say, now, why did we start doing this? Where did this come from? What was the meaning of it? And does it still fit in our life today? There's some non-negotiables, like we have constitutions, and we have a rule that we have to live by. And even in our century, we have to be true to that. So you have to kind of balance, is it workable for today, and is it still keeping us in line with our constitutions and the vows that we made? And I think that's a constant ongoing thing in our larger community as well as in our smaller community. Now, we've had some traditions here that we're not able to do now because of the differences either of the building or the sisters that are still here, or maybe the sisters that will come. I have to laugh because when I became abbess, I was totally overwhelmed. I had no plan to be abbess. I had no desire to be one abbess, really, but it was put on me, so I thought, well, God has a plan here. And I think I always remember that if God asks you to do something, he's always going to provide the grace for that. I may not ask for it. I may not, know it's there, but I think he really does give us the grace to do what he's asking us to do. And I also believe that he's always preparing us for the next thing he's going to ask us to do. In my coming here as an older person, I had a lot of life experiences, And I think if I look at it now, every one of those life experiences I've been able to use here. Not that I thought I would when I first came. I thought I'd be letting go of a lot of that. So I think he always prepares us for what he wants us to do. And then I think he follows up with the grace and always gives us the grace. I think my part is to be able to cooperate with that grace, realize that he's offering it. And if I can't see it or find it, then keep asking for it. And I think eventually he'll reveal it to us. No, we're not worthy, but it's God that makes us worthy. So I think that's the way I have to look at it now. He's the one that helps me be who he wants me to be, but he makes me worthy. I would never on my own be able to make myself worthy.
I'm very happy. And you know, being at peace within yourself and within your relationship with God is so important. You know, your prayer life is what's going to save you, because we have many challenges. And when those challenges come, we go to Jesus and say, Jesus, I need your help.
And I think what you're saying is so true. When you're mentioning having that peace within yourself, that peace with God within yourself. And I think that's so important for every step that we take in life, even before we enter this community, to honor what God may be asking of us, even though the journey is unforeseen, you haven't traveled it as yet, and you really don't know what lies ahead of you. I think that aspect of honoring what you sense God is asking of you, to be willing to take that next step, and then from there He'll show you the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. Right. But it has to start with your trust in that He is there with you and for your good and for the good of all peoples. Okay? Right. And to walk with Him and be at peace with Him on that, on whatever it is that He's asking of us.
That's an example of my love relationship with Jesus.
Exactly.
You know, I want to be with Him. I want to see His face.
That's right.
That's the first thing I want to see when I get to heaven is the face of God.
That's right.
And I share all my
everything,
trials and tribulations and
That's right.
reactions and with God. And I've done that since I was in 3rd grade.
That's right.
And it just has deepened through the years. And as I've matured. And I'm sure it will continue to deepen.
That's so true.
And when I'm on my deathbed, I will be full of joy. I'll be saying, well, it's almost time for me to see the face of Jesus.
That's true. And it's like, wherever He's calling us to be, that's where we need to be. That's where we need to move toward. You want to be with the one whom you love, whom you're putting first in your life, which is God. And where can you keep Him more first in your life? Where can you develop that relationship? And trying to be true and honest to that. For myself, it was to continue that journey of entering a religious community. And again, as you say, there are so many communities. Where to go? Trust God to lead you in His way to the community He wants you to be in.
First of all, I believe that the ancient traditions are still very valid, and it's only the periphery that has changed. What the church has taught, it still teaches. Maybe the outside clothing has changed a bit, but the real important things, the sacrifice of the Mass, whatever the church has taught from the beginning is still there. It can be like our habits. We have changed the habit because it seems more prudent. When I first entered, we had woolen habits, but that went back to St. Clare's time, where wool was the cheap thing. The undyed wool was our habits were made of undyed wool, and that was the cheapest that it could have. Now it would be very expensive to buy woolen habits. So it's just the way the church has our main tenets of faith. That's where we have to look. and the rest, the dressing can change very easily.
You know, I'm really glad that you say that, because it does help me to understand and to focus more on what is really at the heart of everything, and to remember that the Eucharist is at the heart, and all of our sacraments and all of our faith. And when you go back to that, and the other outside dressings are sort of the expression of that, and how Rome gets us to update when it's prudent to do so, or when it makes sense to do so with the times, as they had asked us from the Second Vatican Council and even through today. But it is always good to understand the reason, you know, for why you're updating. And like you said, with the habit, with the cheaper material now, is the kind of material we're wearing. And, you know, that's a big help to me personally, because I was born and after Vatican II, and really have only experienced that kind of worship in the church. And often I have had sort of a curiosity, you know, about what it was like before. And to know that it's important to focus on what the essentials are, and to go back to that is a really a big help to remain rooted in my own spiritual life. So, and I'm sure many other people feel the same.
Right. And so often it seems as though the church is changing. Well, the church is not changing. Only the outward periphery that really doesn't mean as much. But the main content of the church is still the same.
Yeah. And one thing I know I appreciated as I was growing up and experiencing my first you know, understanding of church, is how they tried to adapt it to the taste of the times. Like, for instance, with the music, you know, they had they brought in the guitar, and they brought in other instruments besides the organ. And I was able to participate as a teenager in the folk mass with my flute and with the guitars. And it was sort of a way to reach people in a broader way, and to connect with them where they were and where they are. So I think that's it's a really good way to remember what is of value.
I agree.
When one goes to a foreign country, I think you have to bring your faith, because only your faith will carry you on through all the struggles or trials that you might encounter in that new country. Just like when I went to Kuwait, we didn't know anything about Kuwait at all, nothing. Like when we went there, we were surprised that they have a Catholic church. There I learned that God doesn't leave us or abandon us. Imagine it's a very countercultural situation for us. But with your faith, you can live through all.
Yes, faith can move mountains, and it only needs a seed of faith. But it's good that you mentioned that, sister, because we also have to be open to what is good, you know, in each country, in each individual. There's a richness that's brought in the celebrations, in what they have to offer. Their praise and glory comes from the richness of experiences.
I think it's a dual interchange also, because when we were there, the Muslims pray 5 times a day. And whenever they ring their bell like that, we also wake up. I also wake up and pray at 5 o'clock, because, you know, you'll be going to duty at 7 o'clock. So I might as well pray. And then their culture is also rich, and it enriches us also in a way that there you could see the background of where Jesus when Jesus lived. Yeah, because you could see the same.
Did it come alive for you, sister?
Oh yes.
Oh,
the Bible came alive with all that, because they have the same similar culture.
Wow.
And every time we read the Bible, the colors, the smell,
Oh.
the surroundings.
Wow.
Yeah, everything reminds me of Jesus and his time. So in both ways, we are all enriched.
I think the first word that comes to mind for me would be respect. We're all Americans here, and that means we're a melting pot of many different nationalities, races. And I think in a small community, you're going to have a microcosm of that. And I think if people feel like they're respected and their ethnic background is respected, I think then they're more willing to kind of meet you halfway. I think there's a lot of trust that needs to be there. In our small community, we have a community meeting once a month, and in that meeting, the sisters can present things ahead of time that they feel like they need to speak about. So if you give people a chance to have a piece of the pie in terms of, I feel like I have an interest in this or someone's interested in me, I think that brings out some of these things that we need to iron out in terms of differences and make them more compromises as opposed to differences, or they're the same thing but in a different way. Here we have basically two big different nationalities, and a lot of times the food is something we need to discuss and things like that. So I think if people have the sense that they're respected and have a chance to voice what they feel, I think that helps a lot in terms of kind of coming to a meeting of the minds in the middle and more of a compromise. You know, we'll do this, we'll have this day, we'll also honor this. I mean, we've got Italian backgrounds, we've got Irish backgrounds, we've got Filipino backgrounds, we've got Polish backgrounds, and that's just in a small community of 9 people. So I just think the respect is the biggest thing, and the trust. And having a chance to voice your opinions in a non-judgmental atmosphere where everybody accepts it, they listen, go around the circle, everybody has a chance to say what they want to say, and they're not judged on it.
We are whom God has enabled us to be, to grow, to become who we are. Sometimes because of our past environments, or our families, or even our genetic being, so to speak. And that's not always bad. For myself personally, my shyness has helped me to develop a more closer communication with God, to learn more about who He is, to enable my spirit to gain the strength that I need to walk through life, even with the concern of my being shy or quiet. And there's an element, because of that shyness, there is the element of my sensitivity to try to listen within my heart for God's presence, for God's stirrings, for God's speaking to me. Being quiet is a gift in that respect. That shyness, that quietness enables me, if I honor myself and who I am, I can also honor the God who's trying to grow and live in me.
Jean, I've known you for many, many years now, and I admired you. I affirm that I never thought of you as shy as much as an introvert. You know, maybe introversion and being an introvert and shyness go together, you know, but you teach me many, many times, because I'm extrovert and I can blurt out, and sometimes I don't even think before I'm blurting out, and I can see where you hold back.
I do.
At a meeting, you know, you think things through, and you help me think things through. And I was looking over at you today because you were feeding Sister Mary Frances, and I said, you know what, Jesus? She's very comfortable over there. I said, because she's by herself, and she's quiet, and she's not being demanded to respond. And I said, she loves taking care of Sister, and I said that God's really blessing her, because this is where she is. This is who she is. And I would never look on it as a cross. I would always look on it as a blessing.
You're mentioning something about the quietness and my, let's say for example, feeding Sister Mary Francis. Yes, it is an avenue in which I can relax. Okay, because I don't feel pressed to try to communicate, which is more of a struggle for myself.
Right.
And yet I can see that it's also a blessing to community. Because of my quietness, I'm able to avail myself to take care of Sister, which leaves others to enable them to be more expressive during a time of communication, kind of relaxation. And it gives that ability, that freedom, without your being concerned, oh, I'm missing out on something that helps, another individual to relax and to grow. So yes, there is that aspect of trying to understand that shyness and quietness, introvertedness, whatever you want to call it, there's a gift to that as well. And it's trying to honor that giftedness. We don't normally initially perceive it as a gift when we compare ourselves with others.
Right.
And that can become a danger because we perhaps may compare ourselves and look at ourselves more negatively.
Right.
And that's part of humanity that we need to strive to stay away from the negativity of comparing one another, even ourselves with another.
Right. And it's always a danger, Jean.
There
We
is,
always
yes.
should compare ourselves with God and not
That's
with,
right.
not with Sister Joan or anybody else.
You're absolutely right.
Because,
Yeah, yes.
it's God that we love. All of us are very, very different.
Yes.
Yet all of us, I never hear anybody really criticizing or judging, each other, but helping each other, and just loving each other. And I feel that love with my sisters.